Spoiler alert, we're less than 1 week away from Star to watch. Alright, welcome to Trek Central. I'm your host, Captain Jack, and let's get right into it. The Ready Room, hosted by Wheaton, is the after show for most Trek series coming out right now. Anything about Star Trek, then we want to hear about it, so get commenting. Okay, engage. So, let's start out with the titular character of Jean-Luc Picard. Picard himself. We find out that Picard has not only returned to his chateau on Earth, in which we get some lovely scenes of him strolling his fields and looking over some wine of Chateau Picard, hopefully a vintage. At the chateau, we also get glimpses of Picard as a young boy, going into the conservatory for building, so seemingly some memory happened here which Picard is experiencing again. It'll be interesting to see where that goes. Perhaps my own theory is they might touch on the death of Robert and Renee. Before we get to the most exciting section of what's happened to Picard, we have to discuss Laris, the cheeky Irish Romulan that's become a fan favourite among Trekkies. There is a small scene of Laris and Picard having a nice time around a fire. Jaban doesn't seem to be nearby, so I wonder if something has happened to Jaban and we could be getting more of a relationship between Picard and Laris. In some recent interviews for Star Trek Picard, Sir Patrick Stewart has suggested there might be an unseen romance in this season of the show, so we could see it coming in fruition here. Whatever is happening between Laris and Picard isn't what I'm personally bothered with. What is the most fascinating thing to happen to Picard is he seems to have been made Chancellor of Starfleet Academy, which is just amazing for him. There are some scenes of Picard and Raffi walking around the grounds of the Academy, with many other uniformed officers and cadets surrounding them. Raffi's uniform is a new uniform of the 25th century, now that we're seemingly in the year of 2400, which is slightly confirmed later in his featurette. This uniform seems to evolve from a 2399 uniform we saw briefly in the first season of Star Trek Picard, that has lost its high collar and returned to the flap-style uniform seen in lower decks, and the most recently the uniform worn by Admiral Janeway in the animated series of Star Trek Prodigy. The Admiral uniform, however, seems to be in the same style as a 2385 uniform, seen in Picard Season 1 flashbacks, with the black gaps in the shoulder colouring as well as the gold lining around the uniform. However, this uniform has now moved to the style of these new uniforms, with a solid shoulder colouring instead of it extending down the arm and with a flap section at the front. So from this, Raffi has gone back to Starfleet too. This is actually something that was touched on in the audio drama Star Trek Picard No Man's Land. We're actually giving a couple of copies away on our website, so head over there. And with by the end of that, Raffi is being offered the chance to return to Starfleet after they discharged her after a Romulan relocation incident, due to her digging around for Romulan conspiracy theories thanks to Jean-Luc Picard. It did eventually turn out there were actually Romulan conspiracies, and we learned that in Picard Season 1, so technically she was correct and Starfleet probably owed her an apology. Now instead of going back to Starfleet intelligence, she is now teaching at the Academy and acting as a somewhat aide to the new Chancellor, aka Admiral Picard, but she's also taking the new cadet Elnor under her wing. And yes, you did hear me just right there, Elnor has decided to join Starfleet Academy, as what they say is the first full Romulan in Starfleet. Obviously we've had part Romulans in Starfleet before, such as Simon Tarsis, who is the quarter Romulan in the Drumhead. We get a good look at the cadet uniforms of this time as well, which have an angled colouring on the shoulder section, with grey underneath. This uniform very much resembles the provisional Starfleet uniforms seen in Star Trek Prodigy, which a Motley Crue wear in the season final. But anyway, now that Elnor has joined Starfleet Academy and is on Earth, I hope he finally gets to see a cat. Maybe even getting his own pet in a show. Be a great bit of connective tissue from Season 1 right there. Of course, you want to know what's happened to Seven of Nine. Now, Seven has rejoined the Fenris Rangers, and she's become captain of the La Serena. Going back to the recently released Star Trek Picard audio drama, No Man's Land, at the end of that, when Raffi gets her invitation to rejoin Starfleet, it said that Picard keeps his word and gets Seven a ship. So it seems like Picard managed to get Seven of the La Serena. Considering what we first saw in Seven and Star Trek Picard Season 1, the first thing she says to Picard is, "You owe me a ship, Picard," before passing out.
Got him.
Seven of Nine?
You owe me a ship, Picard.
However, she is battling some pirates on the La Serena when we first encounter her in Season 2. She has some crates with a medical Carter symbol on them, so perhaps she is transporting medical supplies to the colonies in the former neutral zone which need them. But we are sad to report that she's only assisted by one of the Real's holograms, the emergency tactical hologram, Emmett. The Seven was apparently annoyed by all the others, so she deactivated them. And Season 2 has an interesting development for Soji, who has become an ambassador to the Simps, and has been touring the Federation for over a year. Now this is our confirmation that Season 2 of Picard is in the year of 2400. It's interesting we get scenes of Soji in a really fancy formal outfit, wearing the present for Picard, because Trez made a very hard place to see her. However, this begs the question of where Soji will fit into the story in the past, since I'm not aware if we've seen any of her actually in the past as well, so Dr. Jurati has been accompanying Soji, and they've been doing a diplomatic tour of Federation space. Jurati is essentially the leading expert in synthetic life, especially after she killed Bruce Maddox. Whoops. so it makes sense you'd stick around with the Simps for the time being. However, my new favourite development of the last Serena crew and where they are is of course Captain Crystal Rios. He's now the captain of a new USS Stargazer, a ship which was Picard's first command. However, this is not the Stargazer A. Obviously, this led to a big discussion online amongst Trekkies. We do have a lot of examples of ships using names from previous starships. The registry is also interesting, with this new registry of the USS Stargazer being NCC 82893, whereas the original ship commanded by Jean-Luc Picard was the NCC 2893. Obviously, with a new ship, we get a new Starfleet interior set for the 25th century, instead of reusing Star Trek Discovery assets for this, which makes us think we might spend a lot more time either on the Stargazer or aboard Starfleet ships, which gets us even more excited. The bridge of the ship looks amazing, and it's wild that Rios can still smoke cigars apparently, but I guess he is the captain. Suna may drink tea on the bridge, but Rios smokes a cigar, and that's much cooler. Though hopefully it's a synth ale and it's not a harmful cigar, you know what I mean. Now the Stargazer has been ordered to investigate an anomaly, a subspace anomaly, and Rios not only requested the assistance of Dr. Jurati, but of Admiral Picard and 7 of 9 as well. Now, due to the subspace anomaly looking green, and the fact we know the Borg are present in Season 2, with the Borg Queen being a major character, I assume this subspace anomaly was caused by the Borg. Bringing Jurati and X1 Sims, and Picard and 7 as former drones or experts on the Borg, it makes total sense logically. Now the feature ends with Jean-Luc Picard, now back as an admiral obviously, is coming aboard the Stargazer. As said previously, probably not only because he's an admiral in Starfleet, but an expert on the Borg Collective. Okay, that was the entire feature out of the way, and you can watch that in the latest Ready Room clip. It's on YouTube, and by the time it's parts of a group of Starfleet officers followed by what looks to be Starfleet cadets, exiting a turbolift aboard the USS Stargazer. These Starfleet officers are aimed with phasers, with these phasers being previously seen in Picard Season 1 as the new Starfleet phasers. The ship is under red alert, with a lot of sparks flying around, and not only that, there is a nice little scene of where the computer says inertial dampeners offline, as we see some Starfleet officers getting thrown against a bulkhead. Really takes us back to Star Trek Voyager and things like that. Now something is seemingly happening on the bridge of a ship, and we get a group of Starfleet officers, including a Vulcan covered in green blood. We know this isn't a Romulan since Elnor is the first Romulan in Starfleet and he's still a cadet. These officers are in a turbolift, and one of the terminals you can see the style of a Starfleet ship, more than a source section you can see in the featurette, with the ship looking like an upgraded Constellation class ship, and its source section immediately attached to the rear by 4 nacelles, 2 ventral, 2 dorsal. This style of ship was actually previously seen in some leaked set photos for Star Trek Picard, which we covered in a video last September, so if you are interested in seeing more about the ship, a link is on screen right now. On the bridge is where we see the real action for this little sneak peek. We're not only seeing Starfleet officers firing phasers, but we see a green energy blast coming from an unknown adversary. This unknown adversary, considering what we know of Star Trek Picard Season 2, with Annie Wershing starring as a Borg Queen, the subspace rift here looking green as well, and the tendrils on screen, we can assume this unknown adversary is the Borg Queen herself. The idea of a Borg Queen moving around on mechanical tentacles has been in media such as Star Trek Online, but presumably originates from a snake-like cabling seen in Star Trek First Contact. The Borg Queen seems to have a Borg personal force field on her, like what's seen in Next Generation, which is quite Polygon-like style. These mechanical tentacles of the Borg Queen seem to be attacking consoles on the ship, and not people, which is firing energy blasts at. This could be the Queen is attempting to assimilate the Stargazer, but she seems to be only shooting people who are firing at her, either a story convenience, not shooting on lead cast, or simply defending herself from a threat. Captain Rios is even heard saying stop firing, so perhaps this is the case. The Borg Queen also seems to be in some sort of EVA suit. Considering that a Borg can survive in a vacuum, this surely isn't to survive in space. So my first thought is might be for the Borg equivalent of a Red Angel suit from Star Trek Discovery. They are seemingly originating with a subspace rift, and we know time travel is in play, so perhaps this is the Borg using a Red Angel suit equivalent to travel through time. But we have seen Borg similarly creating chronoton particles through time before, so maybe this is actually a suit which allows time travel across different timelines. We originally believed that Q was going to be the one to transport the last Serena crew to the alternate authoritarian timeline. But what is actually the Borg? We know that the Borg were seemingly defeated in this timeline for them being captive and the Borg Queen being held captive as well. We also see the on-net painting of a US Enterprise destroying Borg cubes. Perhaps the Borg in that timeline knew they couldn't win, and jumped over to a different timeline to try and change history. It wouldn't be the first time. We even get the Borg Queen saying Picard's name. So if she is from this authoritarian timeline, perhaps she's seeing Picard as the evil admiral who vanquished her forces. Or it could be some sort of self-fulfilling time loop, where the last Serena's actions in the past, or alternate future, cause the Borg Queen to escape and plot her escape to our own timeline. A sort of loop, if you will. Perhaps it's not intentional that the last Serena crew end up in this alternate authoritarian timeline, but actually caused by the self-destruct, which Picard orders on board the Stargazer. This, being in either close proximity to a time crystal, if this is a Borg Red Angel suit, which is powered by one, or the subspace rift, sends our last Serena crew to the alternate timeline. Now, Q could then see this and go and pop in to see Jean-Luc and wind him up in the normal Q way, or being annoying as well, or Q could see this event unfold, and just before the self-destruct happened, he transported the last Serena transferring the crew over to the other timeline to stop what was going to happen to the Stargazer and prevent the Borg Queen from creating the subspace rift in the first place. There's a lot of stuff in the featurette trailer, perhaps too much, but it seems like Star Trek Picard Season 2 is going to start off with a bang and be action-packed. We are really excited to finally get it and watch it next week. Of course, Star Trek Picard Season 2 released on March 3rd to Paramount Plus in regions which have